Hello, and welcome to episode 7 of the FTC radio podcast. This is your host, Isaac Chase, and today we are going to talk about branding again. We just posted an episode about 4 weeks ago, about branding for beginners, and I wanted to take you down a little bit different path as far as branding goes. So in the last branding episode, my partner, Josh, was talking about establishing your brand online and how important it is to have a continuance of your brand across all platforms and your, how you choose your logo, your colors, how you present yourself online, and why it's important to be consistent with that, and why it's important to put effort into that and not just assume that everything's going to fall into place. You have to do that kind of stuff on purpose. So today I wanted to talk more about you yourself as an instructor, branding yourself. And in order to do that, you have to start with a sort of exercise that some people may have different names for, but my name for it is defining yourself, defining your brand, defining yourself. So why should you define yourself? When you get down deep into who you are as an instructor, what your business is going to be focused on, it gives you a level of focus for building your brand. Instead of kind of flailing around and trying to grab every little piece of business that goes by and telling every little customer, not every little customer, I don't want to say that, telling every customer, that you can meet every one of their needs, and just kind of spending a lot of energy on trying to chase down the customer, you could be spending that time defining yourself and focusing in on who you are really suited to as far as customers go. So when you're first getting started, obviously, it's hard to turn away business. It's hard to not want to try to meet everybody's needs. But I would argue that the more time you spend perfecting your own brand of who you are, that's time well spent down the road when it's time to, or when you've put in the work to build that brand. The customers ideally will come to you based on who you are. And if who you are is genuine and you've put in the work to really define who you are and present that to your customers, to the market, I think that in the long run, it's a better move. So that's why you should define yourself. How should you define yourself? How do you go about going into the details of who you are as an instructor and what it is you want, what it is you're good at, and who you are to the market, who you are to your customers. So I want to take you down some questions that you can kind of think about as you're listening to this. I'll try to provide some personal experience too on a few of these, but I really want this to be more about you than it is about me. So first question I think is really important to ask yourself is, what is your story? And I don't mean like everybody's got to have, the Instagram life or the journey from being, somebody who just passionately cares about firearms and, and checks all the boxes and has everybody else's story. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you. What is your story? How did you get to where you are right now? And nobody needs to know it. You don't have to broadcast and advertise it. It helps to get you to define your starting point. And it helps you kind of to focus in on what parts of your life or your professional career or your training have brought you to this point. Your story is your story. Nobody else has your story. There are elements of your story that cannot be repeated by anybody else. Maybe you were a law enforcement officer, and there's a lot of instructors out there who are law enforcement officers, so you're not special there. But maybe something happened during your law enforcement career that kind of colored your perception of the world or taught you something important that you wanted to go on to teach other people. So define your story. And you could do an exercise where you write down a couple of pages or just write down some highlights, but spend some time thinking about it. And I find it's helpful to talk to people about it, but you don't need to go out and be John the Baptist about your story. Find a couple people you trust and try to develop what it means when the question is asked of you, what is your story? You don't need to tell everybody, like I said, but you do need to know it because it is going to direct you in your professional career. Along with that, and what's probably part of your story is how did you get started? And along with how did you get started is why you got started. So how you got started is definitely part of your story. Why you got started is probably like the subtext of how you got started. So when I think about why I got it started, why I got started was really for the activism side of this whole community, of the Second Amendment community. I wanted to make a difference at the community level, the state level, and even the national level. And the way I got into activism was to get into training. Personally, that felt like the best move for me and what I wanted to be a part of. Defining why you got started is going to help you get through those harder times when people aren't signing up for classes or you're running into other roadblocks that are making you question why you're doing this. So taking the time to really define what it is that got you into this in the first place. Why did you decide you want to be an instructor? And I think it's a good idea to communicate that to yourself, to write it down, and to communicate it to other people who will hold you accountable for it. So going along with that question is what about this profession drives you? When you have a class that starts at 8 a.m. and you've got to drive 45 minutes to get there, and you've got to get everything ready before you leave and the night before, and you've got to do all the work to set up your location, your venue, your range, any of that stuff. What is the drive? Why are you out there? Why are you spending that time and that energy? Why are you on your feet for 9 hours running drills? Why are you getting sunburned? Why are you freezing your toes off? What drives you to be out there? Obviously, if you're a firearms instructor, part of that is, well, I want to teach people how to be competent. I want to teach people how to be safe, but why? That question is important because it drives your business model. It drives your customer profile. It drives a lot of stuff that will come along later. And you really should have that clearly defined, what drives you to be out there. If you just teach law enforcement, are you out there teaching people, students, because you believe that law enforcement should have the best training available? Are you out there training regular, everyday people on concealed carry because you think that the more people who are carrying, the better we're all off? What drives you? Like I said, when you've defined that, it helps you define your customer a little bit better and helps you focus your attention on the part of the market that you can help. So personally, what drives me, number one, is safety. I care more about safety than I do anything else. Number two, that people take their rights seriously by taking their responsibilities as gun owners seriously. So those are the number one and number two things that drive me as an instructor and as the owner of Firearms Training Central, and getting as many people into training as possible. That is the whole reason I do all of this stuff. That's my drive. It's not necessarily yours, but you do have to define yours. What do you like about this? What do you enjoy about being an instructor? We all know the hard stuff, but what is the fun stuff? What do you like to do? What kind of gets you excited? What builds your enthusiasm for what you're doing? People can tell when you're teaching a class and you're not into it, you're not excited about it. People can tell, your students can tell. And if your students can tell that you're not excited about what you're doing, then they're going to take less away from that class, and they're not going to take as good of an impression of you, the class, training, whatever it is you're trying to teach. It's not going to get communicated the same way. So you do need to know what you like and why you like it. Do you like doing the high-speed stuff? Do you like focusing on the fundamentals? Do you like taking a brand new shooter and turning them into a competent, safe gun person? What do you like about it? Do you like what you're doing? And not everything you do is going to be what you like to do. Everybody has things that they don't like to do that they have to do in order to accomplish their goal. But if you can work to build your business model, your focus, your training program, your classes around what you enjoy doing, then you're going to have a lot more enthusiasm and energy for that, and your students will like that, and you will start to attract the type of students who are interested in what you're interested in. You don't have to be everything to everybody. You really don't. You're best serving the community, you're best serving your customers when you are enthusiastic about what you're doing. What is your core competence? What is your training? Are you special ops? Are you law enforcement focused? Do you do just pretty straightforward concealed carry? Do you do basic pistol? Are you really good at teaching kids and young adults? What is your core competence and what is your training, and what are you prepared to actually teach? Not what would you like to teach, but what are you prepared to teach? Because that should be driving your business model as well. Shouldn't be out there trying to be something that you're not prepared to be, because it's not going to last, it's not responsible, and it's not going to help your students. That doesn't mean you have to stay in that spot forever. You should be expanding your skills and as an instructor and putting in the work and doing the practice, but also learning new things and applying those things. But when you know what you're good at, that is a pretty good indicator of where you should be teaching, and let other people teach the other stuff that you're not good at. There's no shame in not being good at every single thing about firearms. There are lots of people out there who can pick up the slack and teach the things that you're not prepared or able to teach. But be honest with yourself about what your competence and what your training is and what you're prepared to deliver to your students. What else are you good at besides your competence and training? Are you good at public speaking? Are you good at making people laugh? Are you good at logistics? Are you good at organizing? Are you good at marketing? What are you good at? What are you really good at? The stuff you're really good at, you're going to be way more efficient and productive at than focusing on things that you're not good at. Now, there's some things you're going to have to do that you're not good at, and you do need to get better at those things. But when you're defining your brand, it's a good idea to focus on those other things that you're good at in order to help build the complete picture, build the whole business. And so focus, kind of nail down what you're good at and what you're prepared and able to do right now, because a lot of times you can get bogged down with this whole thing of thinking of all the things you need to improve on and all the things you need to get better at and all the new skills you need. And it can paralyze you and make it so that you're not quite ready to actually do anything. But if you can nail down what you're good at and use those skills to build your business and just get the ball rolling, you'll be surprised at how that forms into other skills and opportunities that you didn't know were going to be there for you. What are you serious about? When I say what are you serious about, what I mean is what are you prepared to do for yourself, for your company, for your brand? What are you serious about doing, and what are you kind of like interested in doing? Those are not the same things at all. when I talk to other business owners, instructors, I'm always kind of thinking in the back of my head when I'm having a conversation with this person and maybe they're asking if I'm interested or if I want to do something, a project or whatever. I have to ask myself, am I serious about doing this or not? Because the things that I'm serious about doing, those are the things I'm going to do. And that's what I want to build myself around. The other things that may seem like a good idea or they seem fun or interested, but I'm not really serious about, those are just distractions for me. Those are things that may present opportunities later down the road, but right now I'm not really serious about it. But if I spend too much time thinking, talking, or even working on stuff like that, that's time taken away from what I should be doing to focus and laser in on what my brand actually is, what it should be, and where I should be focusing my attention. So, what are you serious about? What is most important to you as a person? I'm going to ask this in a few different ways. What's most important to you as a gun guy? Are you really into gear? There is an instructor out in Georgia. You may know him, Aaron Cowan of Sage Dynamics. Sorry, he's really into gear, and not in a nerdy. Not in a tactical way. He's really into pushing and punishing his gear to find out what really works, and then providing feedback to students and also to his audience online. And I really appreciate his approach to that because he tries to be somewhat scientific about it. There's still a lot of bias and a lot of personal experience. It's not scientific, strictly speaking, but the method is to test, and evaluate it in as unbiased a way as possible. I appreciate that. So who are you? What is most important to you as a gun guy? What is most important to you as a Second Amendment person? Is your training going to be around the Second Amendment? And if so, how? What is important to you about teaching people about the Second Amendment? How do you plan on delivering on what's important to you? Is that going to be part of your brand? You know, there's plenty of instructors out there whose logo is the thin blue line flag with, a sheepdog on it. Is that who you are? Is that what's important to you? Then that should be part of your brand. If you're more of the regular Joe type person who is looking to present themselves as very approachable and, kind of the everyman instructor, that's another one. Are you like the beard-wearing tactical special forces guy who wants to really serve the active duty or retired, military personnel? Is that what's important to you? Define what is important to you on that level. What's important to you as an instructor? How do you teach? How do you communicate? What do you want people to walk away from the class knowing about you as an instructor? Who are you as an instructor? What is important to you? Spend some time defining that, because that is what you will subconsciously show your students, but it's also what you should be purposely trying to hone. Just because you want something doesn't mean you're good at it. Just because you want to be an instructor that, checks off A, B, and C doesn't mean that's who you actually are going to be. But you can work towards that. You can spend the time to invest in yourself, in listening to yourself, in the way you communicate with your students. So what's important to you as an instructor? So these are some questions that you should spend some time asking yourself, and especially if you have a partner and you need, the two of you or the three of you need to work this out in a way that helps you guys and girls really define what you are bringing to the market. What's different about you? What's special about you? Why should somebody pick you instead of this person? I like to promote cooperation in this market. I like to promote working together, but you should be you, and you are the only you there is, like Dr. Seuss said. So figure out who you are and figure out what you want to bring to the market, and then work towards focusing that defining that, and building your brand around that. That will be the long-term best investment of your time. Don't be somebody or something that you're not. Focus on you and what you bring to the market. And once you've done that, once you've put in the work, and it may change over time, and you may evolve, and you may change your mind about some things, or your market may change. But if you get this kind of nailed down now, and you can do this exercise in one day, you don't have to spend a month figuring this out. But once you figure this out, this can help you then visualize your primary customer. And when you're visualizing your primary customer and you take all these things about yourself into account, then you can go look at, my primary customer. What is their age? What is their gender, if it matters? What is their profession? What is their experience level? What is their level of interest in training, or what is their type of interest in training? Are these weekend warriors who want to go learn militia tactics? Are these concealed carry people who want to take their skills to the next level? And then, what is the price level or income level I'm looking at here? What kind of money can I charge, and should I be charging for my services? And what kind of customers am I going to choose based on the price or income level of, the demographic that I'm serving? And these are all important things you need to know as you start to market yourself. You got to know who your customer is, because you can't market effectively if you don't know who your customer is. So that exercise is not really defining your brand, but you can't really do it until you've done at least a halfway decent job of defining your brand. And so that's what I wanted to communicate today. I hope that was helpful. If you're a new instructor, it's really worth the time spending to figure that out. If you're an established instructor and you've already done this, it's always a good idea to revisit some of these questions and see if things have changed, and see if your marketing strategy is communicating your brand. And if you're a very well established instructor, most likely you've got experience with this that maybe you're willing to share with up-and-coming instructors or other people, and you can share based on your experiences what you've learned. So thank you very much for listening. If you want to find us, you can find us on Facebook at Firearms Training Central. You can find us on Instagram, Firearms Training Central. And you can find us obviously online, firearmstrainingscentral.com/events is where upcoming classes are. If you're an instructor, get a hold of us. You can reach us at contact@firearmstrainingscentral.com and find out how we can help you. Please spread the word. If you found this helpful, send it to other instructors and see if they found it helpful as well. We really appreciate you listening. Please come check us out. Please say hi, leave comments. Let me know how you like this and what you'd like to see in the future. Thank you very much, and we will catch you next time. Stay safe out there.